You can really bucket where most companies struggle in making a transformation in kind of three areas. The first piece, logically, is just one of culture. Are they really prepared to take on transforming the way they operate every single day across the entire business operation? I mean, put that in perspective. Most consumer products companies, by and large, will have 50 to 100,000 employees working for them. They have regional or global multinational scope. To change anything about their business model and how they operate day to day is a major undertaking. So the culture of the organization and the simplicity of executives to communicate a compelling reason for the change tends to be absent. Second, organization design. When you think about the simple design of how do you compartmentalize work that needs to be coordinated and executed with excellence every single day. In an industry that sells millions or billions of units a month, you must be good at what you do. The third piece is in the area where it comes in to be can be a skill or a process gap. It manifests itself in different ways, but it's, do you have the technical competency to do whatever that work is organized against that mission well? Do you have the skill sets? Do you have the tools? Do you have even the knowledge that you need? Can be organic knowledge that comes out of the operation. It can be intellectual knowledge to then take action when you know something needs to change. So those are the three areas that most companies struggle in, all of which can be addressed, but it takes, again, a focused effort. I've always found that if you actually start with the end in mind, and what I call in consumer products industry, we coined a term called the outside in. So if you think about it is, if you're bringing a new product to market, there's a couple of ways you can design it. You can go into a lab, you can have some very bright people come up with some creative chemical molecule, you can have them come up with a new fiber, you can have them come up with a new ingredient, a new scent, new flavor. It can be a number of things. And then you can push it out. Or, reverse, you can actually go and look for the insights on the outside of those that are already in the market that are using your product. Those that aren't using your product, and figure out why. And reverse engineer your way back into what does that chemical change, what does that ingredient, what does that need to be. The same thing can be said in a non-physical world when you're developing business strategy. If I know I'm going after consumers in the marketplace and there's 2 million of them, what are the changes they're going to go through? Because I'm not just going to sell to them one time. Many folks design products for the product launch for the first version that they sell. Now think about that. If Apple had done that only in isolation when they first developed the iPad, the iPhone, whatever. Many striking examples like that, but they had a 5-year journey in mind with a multi-tiered product initiative in mind that was already thought through before the first iteration was launched. That's successful strategy development. You cannot just think first generation. You must think the what-if questions of where are we going from here? Where will we sell that? It has big cost implications, big design implications, fabrication implications, supplier source implications, production site implications, all of that you need to pre-package and work through. So the best strategies are those that are actually multi-tiered in nature, that actually have a minimum of a 5 to 10 year horizon, where you can actually answer the questions, what will trigger that next stage of change, and when we need to push the button. I think there's a fundamental impact on how you think about your metrics in today's world within the industry. You've got to first step back and ask yourself, is the timing of which you're looking at the metrics of performance of the operation sufficient? So do a sufficiency check. Now, most firms in the industry, and quite frankly across most of the verticals today, look at most of their critical metrics on a monthly basis. That's actually like trying to drive a car down the highway, looking in the rearview mirror. You actually need to make sure that the metrics you're using and the time and how you're trying to synchronize them is match with how you're trying to run the business forward-looking. So a baseline for you to look at from a metrics perspective is, are you able to pull the information you need to understand near real-time performance of the operation? Now, the performance of the operation can be a variety of things. It can be the performance of the operation on, do I have available what I've promised? Have I produced what I committed? Do I have in the marketplace in the right mix versus what is currently selling? All of those need to be timed in a way that is, I'll call it and describe it as near real time. Now, near real time for you or I could be totally different definitions, and both of them can be completely relevant. Because if your business is one that still is running weekly cycles for how you go to market and availability, your production schedules, understanding for this week how well you're doing could be perfectly okay. Now, if you're a company that's further up the transformation scale and you're already at the point where I'm reacting to what is selling today in the market and I'm wanting to take advantage of that, then your metrics best be timed at what does my performance look like today? Because if you're not performing well today, I would submit to you your performance in the market for tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon is probably going to look worse based on what you learned today. If you're out, you're short, you find you have a materials outage, or you find the mix is starting to skew in a way that you're not running your production cycles. So the simplistic way to answer it is you must time sequence the metrics to be relevant to how you want to run that business model. It cannot be running the business looking in the rearview mirror. Priority number one is look at their organization design. You've got to, in today's world, run the business in an end-to-end format. Make sure that processes that are really critical, mission critical to the operation really come under a single design with a single leadership and a single clarity of focus of what the imperative deliverables are. Second, you've got to tune those processes that are working to the cycle that you want to run the business, right? So it's back into the business process integration again. Third, you've got to make sure that you've got the right decision-making structure in place. And by decision-making structure, I'm not talking hierarchy now. I'm talking about the ability to understand the operation and what is going on in it so that you can take action against how the operation is running. So again, organization design. Focus and clarity on the process execution. You've got to be relevant and good at what you're doing on those processes. They've got to be tightly integrated. You can't be running one thing on a weekly cycle and one thing on a monthly cycle. Third, you got to look and make sure I've got the information that helps me to expose problems and, importantly, opportunities, because in today's stagnant growth world, you've got to be able to preemptively strike before your competition can.